Good morning, neighbor. And I say good morning because it is the morning where I'm at. And I don't know what time of day you're looking at this. So today, I know we've had some fun in the past. We're going to have a lot more in the future. But we've taken on some pretty serious stuff. And I have no regrets about that. I hope you've gotten something out of it. But today, we're going to take a little bit different turn. I've been very fortunate in my life to be around gospel music. My daddy was involved in gospel music in some fashion most of his adult life. In fact, the Friday before he went home to be with the Lord, he was helping lead music at a nursing home in LaGrange, Georgia. Now, I followed him around to singings all the time. There's an old joke. I had a drug problem when I was a child. I was drugged to every church within 50 miles of our house. Ha ha, yes. That's true, I was. But wherever my dad could be found at a singing, I could be found. Now, as a young adult, I came home from work one day, and Daddy said, "Got a job for you." I said, "Oh, yeah? What's that?" He said, "It's volunteer work, but I think you'll enjoy it." And I said, "Oh, yeah? What's that?" And there was a group looking for a singer. I said, "You did not. You didn't really." May I explain that I to this day, I'm not real comfortable in front of a big crowd of people. Now, I can talk to you one-on-one all day long, talk your ears off, as Mama used to say. But to get in front of a big crowd of people, that's a chore. But he had me promised to try out. And I did. The part they called me singing, I sing by letter. That means open up, let her rip. I don't know. I thought a clef was something you jumped off of into deep water if you're trying to impress your girlfriend, see. But I went and did this, and I did it for a better part of a year. You can't travel with people all the time and not have stories to tell. You understand? But I will start with a group that, not the group I was with some folks that went to singing one time. Now, they had a fellow start playing piano for him. Buddy, he could play that piano. He was driving the bus. But now, if you can picture him, he was a mountain man looking kind of guy. Neatly cut beard and a little bit, what we would consider a little bit long hair like, and broad shouldered, but real quiet and kind of meat-like. Didn't say a whole lot. The church they were going to, now there was a fellow at this church. He read the scripture about greeting the brethren with a holy kiss, and he took it literally. He saw you in his church, you was going to get a peck on the cheek. And so they're taking this guy. He just started playing piano for them. Off they go to this church. Everybody stays behind him because they know if this man is there, he's going to be on the bus saying hi to everybody. And he was there. And so they pull up. I'll call him Bob. He opened the bus door, and this fellow comes bouncing up the steps. "Hi, is everybody?" He went right straight to the bus driver first and said, "Hello there, brother. Welcome to our church." And he gave him a little peck on the cheek and went right on through the bus, did everything, did everybody else too. Everybody got a kiss, and off he went. Poor bus driver was sitting there with a blank stare on his face. The guy gets off the bus and he turns. He says, "He kissed me. If you can watch that and not laugh, I'll buy your lunch." Well, I had the opportunity to sing with this group for a while. Now, I need you to understand how we travel. It'll be very important to the last story in this set. We had an old school bus. Still looked like a school bus, but they'd taken the letters and all off of it. Well, we tore out the back two seats on each side to store equipment. So we're in this old school bus, and we're just country folks anyways. And we had a propensity, about 98% of the churches we sang at was small country churches. Now, honey, I'm talking country. I'm talking about cornfield on three sides, dirt road in the front, country churches. And that's where we was. I can get tickled thinking about it. That's where we was on this particular night that I'm going to tell you about. We pulled up next to the church. There was kind of an incline there. And so they could just pull stuff off the bus, all right? Now, our manager had recently purchased a new piece of equipment. We set our soundboard up in the back of the church. Set your mics and all. Of course, they got to be up front and all that. Well, we had a cord that you plug into the soundboard. You run that cord all the way up front and you plug it into whatever the mics are attached to. And our manager had bought a brand new one. And he was proud of that. He was so proud of it, he put it in its own little trunk. It was a beat up trunk, had a hole in there. And he called that cord, you ready for this? He called that cord a snake. Yes, he did. And here we are at this church. Now I'm standing back behind the manager just a little ways, and they're just, the windows are open on the church. You can hear everybody in there, and they can hear you out here, and they're unloading stuff, carrying it in the church. Sit that one right over there. Now this will look good right here. And all of a sudden, I hear these words. Who's got the snake? Now let's pause. A car has pulled in to the driveway there. And pulled right up close, halfway between the church and the area where the bus is. There's 4 senior ladies in this car. They get out of their car just as this conversation starts. Who's got the snake? I ain't got the snake. Hey, boss, where's the snake at? We can't find the snake. And the manager says, we got to have that snake. We cannot have service without that snake. Y'all got to find that snake. These ladies are hearing all this. And I stood there and I watched them huddle up, right? Y'all better find that snake. And they elected one of their number to come up the hill. She's coming from my manager's blind side, right? Y'all ain't found that snake yet? Come on, guys, look under the pews. Look everywhere. You got to find that snake. She comes up behind my manager and taps him on the shoulder. He turned around and looked at her and he said, yes, ma'am, what can I do for you? And she says, excuse me, but that's not really a snake, is it? He didn't think about what he was saying. He said, yes, ma'am, and it's 75 foot long. And this dear lady, she said, thank you. And she toddled right on down that hill towards the car. About that time, somebody said, we got it. We found the snake. We found it. Don't worry about it, boss. We found the snake. Where'd you find it at? It was up under the front pew on the right-hand side. That little lady started toddling a little bit quicker. And she toddled right on back down to that car. They huddled up again. And then they separated and went to their separate doors. They got in the car. I sure am glad y'all found that snake. We couldn't have had no service without that snake. That snake's important. And they backed that car out, and all down that dirt road they went, dust flying everywhere. I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard. I did everything but roll down that hill. My boss stood around. The man, he turned around and he said, what's the matter with you? I said, boss man, you just broke up your singing tonight. You're not going to have a crowd, and you're probably not going to have much of a love offering either. He said, why not? And I rehearsed for him everything I just got done hearing. Those dear ladies, bless their hearts. And I said, now those ladies are leaving to go home, and they're going to get on their phones. They're going to call every church member they can think about. They're going to say, don't go down there to that church. Now, there's a bunch of crazy people down there. They got a 75-foot long snake. Don't go down there. I said, your singing's busted, boss. And I'll never forget. He looked down that road. He saw that dust flying. That car disappeared out of sight. And he said, bless her heart. I wouldn't have scared her for nothing. Now, honey, if you watch that and not laugh, I'll buy your lunch. We had stuff like that all the time. I'll tell you a smaller story here about discretion being the better part of valor. Another country church. We pull up. Nobody's there to let us in. We sit there. Nobody comes to let us in. We get a little concerned because you want to set up, right? You want to set up and maybe run through a song or two. Nobody's there. Well, there's a house way down the road on the right. Well, me and a buddy of mine decided, well, why don't we just walk down there? Maybe they know somebody that's affiliated with the church, and we'll just see what's going on, and we get somebody here to open up. And we started off down that road, and we got about halfway to that house, and two of the biggest, meanest, hungriest looking, aggravated German Shepherd police dogs you ever saw jumped out in the middle of that road and started announcing to us that it might not be a real good idea if we come any closer than we was right then. We stopped on the dime. Nobody wants to be the first one to back out, right? But we stopped right there and we looked. For 2 or 3 minutes, we stood there and just watched those dogs, and they didn't slow down their warnings. Don't come no closer, big boy. And my buddy finally said, you know what? That house, it looks a lot further even from here than it did from the bus. I said, yeah. And we do have our church clothes on already, don't we? And I mean, we're not our coats, but that's a long way to walk and get all smelly before the singing even starts. And my buddy said, yeah, we can't have folks at the church thinking we didn't think enough of them to take a bath before we come down here, can we? I said, no, I think maybe the best thing to do is just go back to the bus and wait on somebody to come to the church. What do you think? And my buddy said, that's a good idea. I like that idea. Let's just do that. And back off to the church we went. I don't know. I cannot remember if anybody ever asked us, did you get down there or not? But I'm not sorry that my britches leg didn't get ripped up and I didn't bleed, and I didn't have German Shepherd teeth hanging out of my skin either. I'm not sorry about a bit of that. So, well, should I tell this? I think I will. We went to a church one time. Now, please understand. We were raised in a Southern Baptist church. Nothing wrong with that. I'm still one today. But in the little church we grew up in, we were all things decent and in order type of church, right? We did have a bulletin, and bless God, we went by that bulletin. The songs were numbered and listed, place for the announcements, place for the choir, place for the special music, everything in order. That's just the way we were raised. Now, my daddy, when he went to sing somewhere, he didn't give a care what the sign over your church said. All he wanted was an opportunity to sing the gospel. He never did tell us when we were going to church that maybe didn't do just like we did. So when we get to this little church on this night, we didn't think anything of it. We saw the name of the church, and it had holiness at the end of it. Us kids, didn't mean anything to us. We were at church for gospel singing, and we knew how that usually went. Let's just go on and have church. The fellow that greeted us there, just a normal fellow, shook our hands. How y'all doing? Boy, y'all are growing, ain't you? How many kids you got this year anyhow? That was a standing joke with Dad till he got up to his full count of 5. They would pick at him about it at the meal even. So here we go into this church. Now, my sister Veretha, who is in heaven now, her best friend Rhonda, they're sitting up for me and on the other side of the church, about 4 pews back. I'm about halfway back in the middle, and singing starts. And honey, from the congregational music, the decibel level the walls were just boing, boing. These folks was coming to have church. And then they turned the singers loose. And I started learning things I never thought I'd have to learn. On the second song, a little lady, if she wasn't senior, she wasn't far from it. Sitting in the pew in front of me on the end. That place got happy, and this lady flat-footed from where she was to the pew in front of her. Over that pew she went. As a child, I'm going, and I'm starting to look for an escape route already. Thankfully, it's a one-story church, and there's one that's just to my right. I'm already scoping it out. Before I can scope it out too much, I hear the loudest hollering and carrying on you ever heard in your life. And I look up to the front and to the right, and they got this fella pinned up against the wall. His feet are barely on the ground. They got hands all over him, and he's just, I don't know what it was coming out of his mouth, but I don't know what's coming out of their mouth either. It wasn't anything I ever heard before, I'll tell you that. And they just, I know now they were praying over him, but as a child, I'm going, oh, they're killing him. They're killing him. His feet ain't even on the ground. Now I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Before I can act on that thought, I hear the same kind of noise in the back of the church and over in one corner, and I look, and there's a bunch of women folk has got around this young lady, and they gave her the same treatment these men gave that man, that his feet ain't hardly on the floor anymore. But this little lady back here, she couldn't take all of that. When they put hands on her, she just went down. Now, you'd think somebody, if they went down, you'd be trying to help them. But no, these ladies went right on down with her. And they're speaking the same stuff these men are speaking. I can't tell you what they said at all. And now I'm gone. I'm going out that window. But wait, where's Bertha and Rhonda? You know what they were doing? The same stuff everybody else was. Just jumping and throwing their hands up in the air and hollering. I said, oh my God, they got Bertha. I got to go. And I went out that window. I went out that window fast. The last thing I saw before I went out that window was a line starting to form. The pastor's up front. And they would get up to him and say, are you ready to receive something from the Lord tonight? And they'd go, yes, yes. And he'd tap them on the forehead, and every time he tapped somebody, they fell. I found out later why Bertha and Rhonda were doing what everybody else was doing. When that line started forming, Rhonda looked at Bertha and said, what is that for? And she said, that's for people in here that ain't doing what everybody else is doing. I expect we better get busy. They didn't want to be tapped. And so they started hollering and shouting and waving their arms. And out that window, I went back to the van, got up under some quilts, and I stayed right there till I heard my daddy call my name out much later. Meanwhile, he was so proud of his daughter, she done got the spirit until we got home that night. And the whole story was told. And when my daddy found out that my sister had a temporary spirit brought on by a desire not to be in that line going up to the pastor in front of the church. In other words, she was faking. There was another revival that took place in our home that night in the bathroom. Brother Leather did the preaching, and Bertha, bless her heart, she did the repenting. And she repented just like I did when I had a bathroom revival, fervently. The things we sing. I look back on that now. I do not regret any church I was ever in, regardless of the way they worshiped. Think about it, neighbor. We serve the same God. You're not going to hell because you don't worship the way I do. I'm not going to go to hell because I don't worship the way you do. Why don't we get off of this stuff? If you're in a holiness church, God bless you. Win the loss at any cost. I mean, make the devil throw stuff, and make him throw stuff at you. You know you got Jesus in front of you. Make him throw stuff at you, because if he's throwing stuff at you, he's leaving somebody else alone. And you're the winner anyway, right? When this thing is over. when the last battle is fought and the trumpet blows and the dead in Christ rise and we left behind go up right after that, and we meet Jesus in the air, we're going to reign with him forever. Neighbor, it'll all be worth it. Oh, I got much, much more to tell you. But I'm going to let that be all for today. We've had some fun in gospel music over the years. You can't do it and love it and not have fun. And this old boy, he don't back off from having fun. You have a great week. We'll see you soon again, okay? We love y'all. Bye-bye.